The thing I like to do is pause in the middle of conversation right during that gunshot because it seems like an appropriate thing to do thematically. But yeah, I do like this sudden, you know, shift change because you're wondering if the main character has just been killed because the last thing ends with a gunshot. Um, and the opening has you control somebody else, whoever you were more of a friend with during the previous part of the game. Um, yeah. Um, I totally understand B. Sometimes when you're in a situation that's as dour and scary as it is, you start making jokes because, well, if you can't laugh, I mean, you're just gonna cry. Um, and of course, choices given in the game that are meaningless. Um, and yeah, it's kind of interesting that Greg says, or the options for Greg are the lines in Casey's forever away message, which I'm guessing is probably something that they were both into, like either something from a similar video game or skater culture or something like that. I'm not hip enough for that. And yeah, also totally get Angus's kind of response to all of this. He has to do something, because if he doesn't do something, he's feeling like he's useless and, more importantly, powerless. That said, we get Angus and Greg, declaring their love for each other, which is a good thing. Um, and yeah, we get also another conversation that, Greg states that the possum jump thing is got bad memories for Angus, which is kind of interesting because based off of what he was saying about scouts, it seemed like something that he was potentially into. I mean, it would be something that would get him out of the house and out of the hellscape of his family. So it makes me wonder, was Angus out in scouts and did that give him issues? Hopefully not. I mean, he's gone through enough already, but probably. And yep, now we get into what happened to May during or after the gunshot, which is she fell into a ravine. On the bright side, she does not have a bullet hole in her. On the negative side, she's probably got a massive concussion. I don't think she's broken any bones because she's moving relatively fine, but she's probably bruised enough organs and muscles and other parts of herself that I'm pretty sure she wishes that she had broken bones or is dead. Because she definitely does not feel particularly fun to play as during this day, because all of her actions are down to very slow and sluggish, trods, which definitely does give this sort of weight to the recent actions of the game. Because earlier you're running around, jumping, doing all sorts of fun, fast-moving things, and now you're reduced to trudging along, unable to do much. And passes out from exhaustion in, well, at least not the middle of the street. It looks like she's on the sidewalk. So at least she's not going to be like run over, which is definitely a good thing. But yeah, so we've got everyone that May has talked to during, her events. If you deal with Lori M a whole bunch, she arrives in the church. Selmers, because you were good to Selmers. Mr. Chazikoff, because you keep on going into the go to the telescope. And Mr. Penderson, who I think no matter what he talks to you, and I think no matter what he's going to be in this sequence, but he is someone who I believe does show up at the end of the game. If not, I don't think he's particularly spry enough to be part of the death cult. But Mr. Twigmayer, even if you just kind of avoid him, and you only speak with him once, he also doesn't show up at the epilogue. And he seems to be really, really interested in what May knows what happened. Because it seems like he doesn't quite believe the story that, it was, a stranger, a buck hunter that, took a pot shot. I would say Twigmayer probably knows a lot more than he's leaving on. So, person involved in the cult, probably him, which is sad because, he's really, really kind the one time you get to see him early on. But that kind of makes sense considering, what we see last time. Someone is able to point out not only someone there, but automatically knows that it's May. So, and Mr. Twigmayer, during that early conversation, mentions the fact that he knows her by scent, which, I would say maybe points to the fact that Twigmayer was the person who, was orchestrating the dismemberment of Lerv there. On the bright side, you do not have to trudge all the way to Greg's apartment. You can actually, or you do actually, cut 4 screens of travel. Yeah, going up that hill would not be fun with this kind of slow movement. And I think this scene is the most we see Bee with her eyes wide open. I mean, we see her eyes wide open during her plot line a few times, but usually it's in that half-lidded, I really don't care kind of look. Because I think she is relatively overworked. She can't really open her eyes all that much. And now this sequence actually makes sense. Because, even prior to Weird Autumn, That whole "th" instead of "s" thing didn't really show up earlier, so it was just a weird thing that he was telling her to change her consonants to make things less noisy. Um, and yes, the final pizza party type thing, this time with Germ. Um, yes, and always make sure to feed Angus, even though um, she doesn't see, or none of them seem to be all that interested in eating. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what's with the, you know, everyone displaying half-eaten pizza slices, but they seem to finish things off. That said, I mean, May definitely seems to not be able to eat, which, yeah, I think that's more psychosomatic, unless in her injuries she managed to. Yeah, I mean, it's possible to like bruise your stomach and the like, but um, and depending on how long she was unconscious, you know, if she was given a feeding tube or something like that, probably not. I think she was just sort of overly worried. And I know I said last time that, and I don't know where that sudden camera jump moved, but it's weird. Yeah, I said last time that May's highlights seemed to be drifting away. Now they seem to actually be showing up a bit more. Um, yeah, that was just me trying to recreate the sudden camera movement there. I was just playing weird, I guess. Um, no. No promises, Greg. No promises. Uh, I'd almost want to see what Werewolf Shred the Gnar is. It sounds like a skating game, especially since, you know, Greg starts talking about skating when he first sees it with Germ playing, so I guess, yeah, it's a Tony Hawk-like game. Um, I wonder if in this, you know, world, Tony Hawk would be considered an actual hawk. Of course, now I'm starting to wonder if, you know, this game has BoJack Horseman-like realities. Well, probably not, because there's a lot less animal puns and all that stuff. In fact, there's very little atavism in this. Atavism as in, you know, sentient beings acting like animals and the like. The only time that you really kind of get a feeling that, you know, these people are actually animals is one, May's ability to, you know, jump around, as well as, you know, her use of claws. Um, so, yeah. And at this point, yeah, we get May's full first name, Margaret. So she is definitely Margaret Borowski, a Russian blue cat. Um, and if you're hearing what sounds like a little bit of tapping, that's because I accidentally left the microphone on when I recorded this. So you're hearing me hit Y button over and over and over again. But yeah, this is where we get the big reveal about what's been going on with May, not only in her past, but also why she left college, which is a, sort of fascinating thing that she's going through a lot of mental issues. Um, Now, having a mental disorder doesn't exactly excuse you from being a jerk, but it definitely adds a rationale to it. I wouldn't say that. Actually, yeah, no. Based off of the conversations we have with B during her campaign, um, well, no, they drifted apart long before the event, but I'd say that, yeah, her kind of dissociative disorder, excuse me, um, as it started to manifest was, I guess, part of the reason why she, one, stopped being cool and interesting to talk to, according to B, but also started developing these antisocial disorders. Because I suppose, based off of what we've heard, off of how May describes her disorder, is that it's hard for her to realize that other people are a thing. Um, so, yeah, I guess maybe in that case she is a bit sociopathic, but, not trying to be an evil sociopath, just she isn't sure how really to do things in life, which is kind of sad. I mean, she's definitely wanting to be a good person. It's just she doesn't know how, and she can't really perceive how, which is kind of even worse because, I mean, you can teach someone to be better, but if they can't see how to be better, then that kind of becomes more of an issue. Um, yeah. Um, I'm not sure about, because I never lived in a dorm when I went to college, but um, if there was a student that was just in their dorm room lying in bed all the time, um, and like never going to class, that would think would be a giant red flag for the administration to wonder, is something wrong. Um, and I mean, she's uh, she got through her freshman year and she was only a sophomore, so I would imagine she had a roommate. Um, living in a dormitory, you would probably have a roommate of some sort. So, uh, yeah, did they just not notice or care that there was a person with demonstrative issues just wasting away in bed? Ugh. Um, that might be another whole reason why, you know, this thing is all kind of tragic, and it's hard for her to view other people as actually there if they don't interact with her. Um, but that's just stuff I'm thinking, I guess. And yeah, we get the sudden, heroic turn of, May's friends. And Greg essentially doing the you know, get away from her, you bitch, from aliens. And yes, the Greg storyline does include the bleeping, which is cute. Yeah, apparently, I think I said it before, what the makers of this game found absolutely fascinating was you can say pretty much every single profanity under the sun. Almost every single profanity under the sun, because there's a lot of the uses of the word shit in this game, asshole, crap, etc., etc. Although crap now is like a really low level one. But if you use one instance of the F word or the C word, the really bad C word, you would instantly go to like a M-rated game. Excuse me. But if you don't, and this game doesn't, it's still teen, so it's still essentially a PG-13 rated game, which, no. A 13-year-old could easily play this game. They just probably wouldn't have the experience to really understand what's going on. Well, I say that, but there are certainly 13-year-olds with a lot more experience than they probably should. So, who knows? Yeah, this game would be a lot faster if they just, blocked up the mine right here. Sorry, moving the stand that the computer's on. But I suppose if they did that, they would probably just get out by the same way the heroes get out a bit later in the events, which is through the ventilation system near Germ's place. Yeah, this area is, I like the mines, just because it sort of feels exceptionally strange and alien, especially compared to the town that you're in. So I guess I would have loved to have actually been able to explore this area some more. Especially, not being completely damaged as May is now. But I guess that is not the case. And yes, B starts, or continues being the voice of lore and reason throughout the entire game. Yeah, unfortunately, inhalers to, or especially medicated inhalers to non-asthmatic people, I don't think would help them all that much, probably hurt them more. But yeah, especially with how slow May is moving, the amount of tension and dread that builds up through this sequence is really, really good. And I like the fact that essentially the only form of light seems to be from B's e-cigarette. Yeah, I really should have turned off my microphone when I recorded this. Very unprofessional of me. And here we get the final pentagram in the game to be added to the journal at some point in time, but you can't open the journal here. In fact, probably May doesn't have her journal on her. Which means you can't access the options menu here, but you can still technically save and quit and then do the options on the main screen, so I guess you still can. Not that you really need to use the options at this point. But yeah, this is definitely a fun and fascinating point where, you know, all you see is B's cigarette and you hear other people talking. And then you see the entire cult. Yeah, that would be, you know, taking yourself very much off guard. I'm guessing the only reason why they aren't immediately going to try to take out both May and Greg is because of their relationships to other people in the community. They're probably wanting May to stick around because she seems to be saying things that say that she's affected by whatever this, you know, cosmic horror has started to affect her, so they probably really want her to join because she has, as they call it, the glimmer. They probably want B around because, you know, she's essentially the de facto owner of the hardware store. Angus is relatively benign, as Greg is... I could see them wanting Greg around as being someone who they could send wet work to do. But yeah, I would say he'd probably not be the highest on their list. That said, you know, a group like this probably wouldn't want to, you know, gay people involved in their weird murder cult, so, you know, the fact that they're planning on moving away probably just means that they're a non-entity to them. Yeah, I agree with you, B. I agree with you a whole lot. But yeah, there's a lot of evidence to say that what's going on is sort of an effect of arsenic-tainted air caused by whatever's been billowing from the mine and affecting the entire town. It's, if I recall right, there has been actual instances of that, but I could be wrong, but I will admit I think it's also an X-Files episode, which obviously the X-Files is a, piece of fiction, but, sometimes they base episodes off of, stuff that actually happened and are like, well, what if it really was supernaturally, created or such and such. So, yeah, there's that whole thing there. But, I guess whether or not this whole thing is, actually supernatural or just a, thing of mass hallucination, it, I guess, doesn't really matter. Because in the end, the reasons don't, the reasons for actions mean only excuses for the actions that actually happen. And wow, that is a really heavy crossbow. That just sounds dense. And yeah, this is definitely a really cool sequence, or sequence, personally, because it kind of reminds me of the sort of psychedelic animation that you would see in a lot of 70s cartoons and the like. You've got the whole vibrant pastel work going on. This actually kind of reminds me a bit of Watership Down, the original version. And yeah, if you don't keep clicking, all you see is May spiraling down into nothingness forever and ever. And that's me, probably drinking tea in the background. Bad me, bad past me. And yeah, as B is kind of pointing out, we see that the villains are not people who are, struggling and desperately trying to get by. It's just they've got, almost everything, and they feel that being denied everything is, a slight against their very being. Yeah, ID certainly is not a very smart person, but we certainly get to figure that out more soon. Because ID is definitely not long in this world. That's a really strange thing to say, but especially considering what you've just seen, but I guess it makes sense narratively. Yeah, that's sort of the problem with nostalgia is it doesn't quite create that which blends into actual reality. I mean, everyone says stuff like they want to see the white picket fence houses and stuff of the 1950s, but they try to gloss over the rampant racism of the time as well. But I guess that's reality for you. And then here, just like the chase scene, you can technically do nothing and the events are still the same, although I don't think you're able to knock off the helmet if you do nothing. In this case, you see that ID was a cat. I've seen people try to claim that ID might be either Casey or perhaps May's grandfather for some reason. But yeah, I don't think that is the case at all. Because that would be a little strange. Well, definitely not her grandfather. But as far as Casey, probably not. But yeah, now that the path to the hole has been sealed, May does seem to be getting better, so for some reason it seems to be, the cause of a lot of her problems. So yeah, if her dissociative disorder was a sort of a result of, either a supernatural cause or, poisonous air from a decrepit old mine, it would be interesting to see if May actually starts, recovering, getting better and all of that. Who knows? While they've somewhat teased a sequel to Night in the Woods, well, they haven't really teased it. They've just been like, it might possibly happen, but not for a long period of time. But yeah, if they did, it would be interesting to see how May's doing in the future, but yeah, it's not exactly a storyline that personally needs to be told. And yeah, here we get May directly confronting her inner demons, which it's definitely an interesting take on the idea that, because May kept running away, that's what, caused all of her problems, which, to be fair, yeah, it did cause a lot of her problems, but I don't think, she needs to be angry to function, but maybe that's just me. And yes, I really like her speech here, and the feeling that you need pain to feel alive, which is kind of an interesting idea. And yeah, that's either the giant space fleas or just, some other thing that's going on in May's cranium. And then it just stops. and she's actually able to formulate complete sentences, which is, kind of useful. Yes, Angus's great and powerful nose. You're unable to run, but you're actually able to, walk at a reasonable rate. Which, my goodness, after all of that trudging, it feels like, you're going, 100 miles an hour at that point. Yeah, no one's particularly shown skills in jumping. And yeah, kind of a shame you can't talk to people before you start jumping up here. I do like how the music starts picking up when you start, climbing up. Feels very, suitably epic. And then finally we get one of the last instances of the violin plucking motif, which I could have used more in the game. You get it here, and you kind of get it a little bit in a few other places when they decide not to animate stuff and just do still frame continuations. And yeah, that's essentially all that segment is we don't want to animate this, so let's make it a gag. I don't think anyone technically needs sugar or caffeine, but it's well, received. And I don't doubt that Greg or Germ has access to dynamite, but that would really, raise some questions, at least with his family, you would think. Like, what was that explosion in our very backyard? Oh, I just set off some dynamite in the old well. Okay. Yeah, even if Germ didn't have dynamite, yeah, those those people are very much dead. Yeah, which is even scarier. They're going to die of suffocation and, if not that, definitely starvation, because there's no one gonna be going to look for them, and even if there was, the people that only know where they are these four. I'm not even sure what the trolley thing is either, unless, she's talking about the segment from, the Dark Knight, which is, based off of another whole, philosophical question of, is it right for, one to kill another, and blah, 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 all that kind of weird stuff. And yeah, no, excuse me. I really do like this letter, and if this was the end of the game, I would have seen it as a satisfying conclusion to the game. But yeah, and yeah, just Bee's kind of blank stare into the ground as she arrives home. I don't know, for some reason that to me, has this feeling of she knows she's not going to see her dad again. That's just my interpretation of the events. And yeah, now we get to the final thing, which, has May talk about the one person who she hung out with the most, which in this case is Greg. And she accidentally hit send, which is, nice and poetic. Even though, man, there's a lot of stuff in that thing that's like, yeah. Anyway, see you next time.